Scott is a veteran panelist, this is his second DePIN Day panel. First one was in Austin, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah, Tom,
Yes.
really appreciate what Fluence is doing, bringing all change together. We don't need DePIN islands. We don't need bottlenecks. We need to all work together where we can. So I love what you, Nadia, have done. What an amazing turnout. And yeah, let's grow.
Yep, let's keep it going. Excellent. Well, I guess if we have I see someone running through the glass, but let's just 1 second see if we've got if not, we can get started and we can have a late entrance, which is also fine. Yeah, Scott, there we go. Here we go. Had to go all the way around. There we go. All right, let's go.
Amazing. I think we got everybody here. Cool. So I think we can start off with just some quick intros, and don't go too deep in your project because I will be asking you questions that will get us there. So we could do a quick intro. I'll start. My name is Scott. I'm the growth lead at peaq Network, a layer 1 for DePIN. If you're not familiar with peaq, we take all kinds of devices, machines, vehicles, and turn them into dynamic real-world assets that you can earn from, and really appreciative to be here.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Phung. I'm a co-founder and CEO of U2U Network. We are layer 1 for the DePIN ecosystem. And we have been building our project for the last 2 years, already backed by Kwil Venture. IDG blockchain is the blockchain app of IDG. They back more than 30 unicorns in the world. And beside that, we also got invested by other famous VC within the DePIN space, such as JDI, Chain Capital, and Web3 Port. And I'm happy to be here today. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gruson. And for those of you who don't know, Kwil is a platform for deploying decentralized networks as SQL databases. And so while Kwil isn't in and of itself a DePIN, we've seen a number of use cases starting to build on top of Kwil. So excited to be speaking with you all today about it.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ella, head of marketing at Gelato. Gelato, I think it's a little bit of a different project from the lineup here. We're building chains. We are roll-up as a service, and we're actually building Fluence's chain. How we support DePIN, we give you scalability rails and ensure that you can really reach masses and scale to millions of users and bring it to everyone on the planet.
Awesome. Hi, I'm Ayush. I'm one of the co-founder and CEO of Huddle01. Huddle01 is a decentralized real-time communication network. We have a 3-pronged approach. We have an app, which is very similar to how Google Meet and Zoom works like, but completely built in a peer-to-peer mesh network manner. That means all your audio and video calls doesn't get routed through central servers, but by your own laptop's bandwidth. We have our own SDK, essentially, which means that anyone can add audio video in their own apps in less than 5 minutes, be it a Clubhouse, building a Zoom, building a game. Essentially, it requires audio video. We do that. And third is a network, which is our holy grail, which means that if there are 5 people who are doing a call right now here, and if you have a good internet connection yourself, you can become a node and you can power the call of all of us. Building for the last 4 years now. We were in DePIN before it was called DePIN. We used to call ourselves as Decentralized Real-Time Communication Network. And yeah, it's been fun seeing all of you here.
Oh, that's awesome. And I'm so bullish on all you guys. So it's cool that we already have a relationship. Let's get it started. So Ella, I know don't feel free to pivot, when I ask the question to make it, work for you, for your answer, because it's a little bit different than a DePIN. But Chloe, let's start. We'll just go like this. And then maybe on the next question, we'll go back. So it's been a crazy year, right? 9 months since, the big Masari report gave it the DePIN name. What have been the key building blocks for U2U for, not only what you're doing, but the other projects that are building on U2U as well?
Yeah, so for these questions, the first thing come into my mind is, I guess that all the speaker are gonna say some of the key block of building a DePIN project would be token incentivization for the user, or as well if you need to choose the right network to build on top, to build your project on top of it, and also the other thing more around the product. But for me, in order to build a successful DePIN project, we also need to care about the business side as well, because we know that DePIN project is working in the way that there's a not is one side is the contributor and the other side is surely is a consumer, right? If you have too many contributor contributing into your network and you have like nearly zero demand or people from the consumer side, then I don't think your startup gonna sustain or gonna be success. So for me, business side of a DePIN project is very, very important. How we can convince a Web2 startup or Web3 startup is using the decentralized GPU power or using decentralized storage, right? It's very important for a DePIN startup. So that is my answer for your question.
Thank you so much, Chloe. Go ahead.
Yeah, so in speaking to a number of, I'd call them IoT-specific DePINs, the biggest problem that they have brought to us at Kwil is they aggregate a lot of data and they have some sort of token, but there's no logical connection between the two in terms of how do you create utility for your token and tie that to the data your network is creating. So kind of your question, what are some of the core building blocks for the DePIN space as I see it grow over time? I think of it as making it so that it is easy for a project to clearly define utility of a token within their network and make it so that the data they aggregate through individuals operating IoT devices clearly goes back and accrues value back to their native token, right? So being able to use the token in some tangible way, whether or not it's aggregating data, paying for access to that data, but making it so that it's clear and defined how you interact with a network based on the data it produces. And I think back to like the business model issue, we could dive a little bit deeper into that later, but we see that as a way to create not only utility, but clearly value accrual between the data that a DePIN generates and the token it launches.
Amazing.
Maybe let me build on that because you talked about incentivization mechanisms. I think all of the incentivization mechanisms need a good infrastructure below, which means that you need to have a good chain layer that promotes decentralization, and you need to also have a good middleware layer that helps you to distribute those rewards. And I think this is where Gelato can help projects in DePIN automate reward distribution and create a chain that really is fully decentralized and serves the purpose.
Yeah, I think answering your question, just a second. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, answering your question on the core building blocks, I think first thing which, when we started Hull 01, there's a couple of good advice which we got from couple of our partners and the giants whom on whose shoulders we always used to stand on, like Filecoin, LivePeer. We saw these projects building for so long, for 8 years, 10 years. And we saw that to build any kind of a DePIN network, there's two ways in which you can go about it. Either build the demand side first or build the supply side first. And what I believe is that building the demand side yourself is a very good way to go about it. Essentially building, but for that you require insane amount of product jobs as well. So doing in a manner where you can build demand yourself and then over time, make it not a switch but a slider in terms of how you want to decentralize the network is how one should go about it. And that's what we have done at Huddle 01 as well. We started by building the app first. Got almost 7 million minutes of meeting so far on the platform, and then essentially wrapped that platform into an SDK and use that SDK for others to build on top of us. There's a very good presentation before this by Geo.net where FrodoBots was using Geo.net, and we were chatting with FrodoBots. So communication essentially is needed not only for doing audio video calls and 2D screens, but also when we are talking to a robot, to an LLM, to a gamer, etc., etc. And that's why I believe that if you build a consumer app yourself, wrap that into an SDK, and make sure that SDK also is being used by people, consumer developers, and then essentially the network, you can make it permissioned and then over time permissionless. That's a very good way to get a lot of business towards your side, create an escape velocity in terms of the demand side, so that once whatever work your token does, you have a good amount of sustainability built into the system itself. Helium has done a good job over time now with a lot of these telecommunication carriers now moving to the Helium device. But I think that process can be made faster if we are taking a demand first approach in general. Yeah.
Awesome. Sorry, excuse me. So, the coolest thing about DePIN and RWAs for me is it's making crypto get real, right? We've had enough meme coins, we've had enough metaverses, we've had enough social fi. We can keep going on and on for the next meta. I know not everyone knows exactly what you all of you do. So I love what you were talking about, Ella. So maybe we start on this side. What problems are you guys solving with your DePIN? And obviously, Ella, you can just answer that. What you guys are solving at Gelato?
Yeah, absolutely. So with us at Huddle 01, what we are solving is when we started Huddle 01, we realized it was actually a hackathon project. It was ETH Global Hack FS. We were just doing a cool hackathon and we wanted to build something really nice. It was peak COVID and I was sitting in a tier 2 city in India. And at that time I was using Zoom. But when I was doing a Zoom call, essentially I had to use Zoom in tandem with WhatsApp because the latency was so high. And the reason was that the internet speed was 25 Mbps or 20 Mbps, and the call quality was not great. And I used to always ask my friends, hey, what did the other person say? Because the jitter buffer latency was so high. And then we realized that the problem with that is not with the problem with Zoom, but how the internet infrastructure is built. So while I'm doing a call in India with an Indian person, my calls were routed through a central server in North Virginia. So all my audio and video packets were routing all the way from India to a North Virginian server, and then it was coming back. And this needed to happen latency of less than 100 milliseconds. While I'm chatting with you, this should happen less than 100 milliseconds, otherwise the call will not look real time. So that's where the idea came into picture that if we want to have communication much more faster, immersive, you need to have a lower latency communication, be it doing in a 2D screen, be it doing in any kind of environment while chatting with an LLM or while chatting with a robot or while chatting with a gamer. And the way to do that is essentially using an unused bandwidth, which is much more near to you. So a call when you're doing real-time communication is not throttled by compute, but is throttled by bandwidth. And we all have a decent bandwidth at our own home, 150 Mbps to 200 Mbps of connection. And that is enough to power a call of 10 to 15 people in itself. So that's how we started, building a network which is decentralized, where the bandwidth could be used to power the call of all of us. And that's the biggest problem which we are solving. That was first. Second was privacy. The calls when we do on Zoom, these are transport encrypted, but not content encrypted, which is a big problem because at SFU, which is the selective forward unit, that's where the encryption breaks. And the third is that all the value accrual, whatever intellectual conversion of calls which we are doing, the value accrual is either happening to Jeff Bezos or AWS, or essentially to a platform itself. This could completely change if we built it in a bottom-up fashion, where the value accrual happens to you and me directly, rather than basically happening to a central platform in itself. And if you see in the last 20 years from Skype to Zoom, we have not innovated a lot in communication. We have went ahead with a peer-to-peer communication called Skype to a communication where the scalability has increased to 200 people. But if you still want to do a multi-haptic communication via using your VR device and doing a game, you will not be able to play. Try doing that with a GPT, chat with a GPT on a voice command and try to see how fast the latency is. You'll still notice that the latency is super high. And the reason behind that is that we're still way far away from the brink of laws of physics on how much we can improve the communication. And that's could become way more better if you're doing it in bottom-up fashion. So yeah, that's the problem which we're solving in communication. Yeah.
I think what's interesting about DePIN that you have two sides of it, one which is the physical networks and one which is the digital ones. And I think like, for example, if I look at physical ones, they're tied a lot of time to geography, right? And when you are, as you said, like in different geographies, right, potentially a one centralized network that is, you know, located in US and hosted in US is not going to serve your customers that are based in Singapore, right? And this is where potentially we as chains builders come in and look into, you know, like what are the requirements of your network? What do you really want to achieve? And for example, like you were talking about 100-second millitimes. This is not achievable on ecosystem chains. You need to have your own dedicated network for that. For example, you know, like if I look on like different stacks across, with Arbitrum Orbit. We currently have one chain in production. It's called Rhea Network. It's DeFi, but it's currently producing block times at 100 milliseconds, which you said it's sufficient for communication purposes also in DePIN. I think this is important. Then second, you want to have very low transaction fees, because currently, you know, like if you go to Ethereum, no one is going to be paying to get potentially, like I think you mentioned that you are Silencio, you are gathering data. If you're pushing this data on chain, right, you are paying for this data 0.2 cents or even more, maybe 10 or 20 every time you push on chain, right? But you don't want to do that. You want to have 0.00001 or, you know, like no fees. You potentially, you also want to have like a completely gasless experience, because your users are not used to actually pushing for a transaction button every single time when you want to collect data or something. So you need to have a network that is implementing completely gasless user experience already onto the chain logic. And this is where we come in the picture. We help projects like Fluence, for example. We launched their Orbit chain. And yeah, we are customizing their chain to fit the user experience that they're looking for. I think generally DePIN is going to flourish on its own app chains, and this is how you really scale and yeah, bring your use case to life.
Awesome. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think I sort of answered it in the last question that you brought up about like the design space of what we provide. But just kind of to summarize it, pretty much bringing the value of your data back to your token. And I think what could be helpful for you guys is kind of referencing one of our use cases within the DePIN space. It's a company called PowerPod. At a high level, you could think of them as an Airbnb type solution for electric vehicle chargers. So, right, they have a platform type business where you effectively pay with their PowerPod token to access this charging infrastructure. That's for most part, it's in homes installed around the world, but really focused on a couple key markets. But kind of like the data business model around having information around how much a battery is getting, how many times it's been charged, its general lifetime. Right, this is immensely valuable as EVs that have been around for over 10 years are hitting the end of their product lifetime. Right, so there's been a huge amount of investment into the EV recycling space, specifically because it's one of those sectors within recycling where it's more cost effective to do so than getting the raw materials from places like the Congo. So selling that data on is going to become immensely valuable and something that PowerPod is actively thinking about. How do I accrue value to my token based on the data that my devices are gathering every time they charge into a new vehicle? And so kind of summing it up, I think that like this is a tangible example of something that's being built with Kwil to demonstrate how we're pretty much bridging the gap between the value that data of a network is creating and the token that is used to everything from writing data to querying data. Everything you interact with it within the PowerPod network is tied to their token. So that's kind of like, if I were to sum up how Kwil provides value to the DePIN space, it's pretty much bridging the value of the data your network provides and your token.
Luis, amazing. I hope people took notes on that. That was a lot of game right there. Go ahead, Chloe.
Yeah, so as I understand from your question, like the way we can contribute into this DePIN sectors. So as the layer one, we try to build infrastructure layer so that DePIN application built on top of us can maximize their performance, right? So that give them the chance to compete with the Web2 traditional business, such as AWS or Google Cloud or so on. So how we can have the app to maximize, which is the first thing we care is like the low latency and high transaction throughput. We are working in the industry, it's called like distributed ledger technology. I think the blockchain word for this industry is too like, how to say, too small. It's not covered enough. So for distributed ledger technology, there are three ways of how you structure the data of the ledger. So the first is like follow up the traditional blockchain. The second one is follow with the DAG, and as well the third one is the hash graph. So for us, we don't use the traditional blockchain. We use the DAG, so that like data recording into the ledgers can be like parallelly recording instead of waiting for one block after the block. That's I don't think is suitable for the DePIN industry as well, because we operate DePIN as a real world application, which is like transaction and demand happen like every day. So daily application, not just like gamify and NFT only happen in the bull run. And in the bear market, the network, the app is like with very low traffic. So that is the first thing we choose is to build our network with a DAG base, so that to have the application built on top can scale easily with a massive amount of transaction. And the second we care about is the interoperability of every kind of DePIN application built on top of our network. So for example, like let's take an example. For example, like I'm a company. I use VPN or decentralized VPN product, which is also DePIN product, to try to fetch, to access into the local website to fetch the data to fit my AI model, right? And that data is also can be stored as the decentralized file storage. So how to have that VPN, decentralized VPN, to communicate with that decentralized file storage, so that a company can easily use two kind of DePIN product at the same time. So that is what we also care about. So we follow it with the concept of each of the sector. We have like a subnet with it tailor-made for that sector. For example, we have like DPN subnet, or we have file storage subnet, and we allow those subnet is communicate with each other. So we also have the DePIN the app to communicate and have them on the growth and expansion as well. And the third is we trying to have like the app, DePIN the app built on top of us to launch on the mobile version instead of only like Google Chrome extension on the desktop. So for example, one of our flagship product, U2U DePIN, that we build on top of our DePIN subnet. So we are not the first one build that product around the decentralized VPN, but we are definitely the first one that allow user with just mobile phones, you can download the app and contribute your unused bandwidth resource into the network. And at the same time, the other people who in need for the IP or in need for your internet can access and use your internet. So other product within the decentralized VPN is now only offered in the Google Chrome extension or desktop. And we are the first one could do that. So that's what I mean about like, we try to have the DePIN, the app, when they build on top of our network, can maximize their performance. Yeah.
Amazing, Chloe. So this next question, so we've come a long way, and I'm going to really age myself right now, but we've really came a long way from SETI. Anyone that used to use that back in the day, what was DePIN called before? TIPIN. To all my old school people, y'all remember when DePIN was called TIPIN. Now DePIN, you know, it's like Theo was saying, it's that shiny object. It's the cool thing on the block now. I know all your emails are full. I know your BDs are busy. So Luis, let's start with you, brother. How do you guys go about picking who you're going to work with? Because I know you're probably, we've walked around Token. We saw a bunch of DePIN and RWA added to projects that have been around for a year or two, or Telegram mini app and AI agents and all that. So yeah, I would love to hear how you guys go about picking partners, because obviously you just don't go, yeah.
I'd say the biggest priority for getting the conversation going is a DePIN that's commercialization first. I think this has been mentioned a lot throughout like this conference and this week, but I think that like thinking of them as decentralized protocols and not as businesses, I think could really hurt the space rather than help it. So I think that coming from the perspective of, yes, this is immensely valuable data that could be gathered more locally in new ways that are not possible currently with Web 2 solutions, but tangibly who's going to actually buy this service, buy this good. So that like before even qualifying a DePIN's ability to pay for a service, to implement it, to have the bandwidth to do so, I think that the most important thing is whether or not their founding team is actively thinking about where this could be most effectively used and really who's buying the service from them.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, we could just go this and then we'll round it out at Chloe.
Yeah, for us, I think it's very simply if we are able to see three parts to it. On the app side, on the infrastructure side, on the network side. On the app side, it's pretty synchronous network effects. That means people who essentially are pretty tired of using a clunky software, that means using StreamYard in combination with Zoom, they really like to use Huddle01. So that's where the business development team looks into that who are these creators and people who essentially need who need basically this kind of product. On the SDK side, it's pretty simple. Anyone who needs to add audio and video communication in their own apps. Whatever nodes they are doing, if their nodes need an audio and video element to it. So, for example, how right now giving voice and video to Ethereum, to peaq, to Solana ecosystem, anyone who requires an audio and video component to their own apps, that's where the SDK goes into picture. So that's how we see that who all requires that. That's the biggest requirement. And the third one on the network side is anyone who has an active set of nodes, active set of essentially data centers running. They are the ones whom we partner for making sure that we have a uninterrupted good amount of uplink and downlink. So yeah, it's a pretty vast canvas. So it's a good, I'll say, good exercise for the BD team to basically go after any of the different departments which they want to, which they really like. But yeah, that's how we go about this three-pronged approach and going after the businesses.
Thanks, Ayush. Now, Ella, what are things that like you go, okay, that's like an automatic thing that I love, and let's have that intro call at Gelato. Like, what sticks out to you? And I think your view is a really good one for the audience because you're not a DePIN project. So yeah, go ahead.
So generally, we always look at number of transactions because like usually when people come, like projects come to us and want a chain, they're already most of the time established. It's rarely that, like new teams come without any kind of history and saying like, actually, we would love to have a chain and spend, I don't know, like whatever they need to set up their network. So I'd say like we usually look at teams that have already delivered successful projects in the past. And then we know that they will deliver a new successful project from scratch because they already have that track record. Or we look at, like, do you have sufficient number of transactions? Is the chain the best thing that, like for your project? Because oftentimes chain, like having your own chain is not going to solve all of your problems. So you need to have like, I'd say like a good product market fit. You need to have like a lot of things on the business side figured out before you say like, actually, yeah, I need to have like my scalability rails in place. And we see that actually that, like right now it's super cool to launch your own chain. But I think like, like businesses, I say businesses because I really think that we need to think of Web3 projects more like businesses, especially in DePIN. They need to think of, like, do I have a business model that works? Can I capture value? How do I make my chain sustainable? How do I, bring in profit? Because oftentimes I think like those chains are not going to be potentially capturing sequencer revenue if they go gasless, right? So they need to have a way of capturing value from either subscriptions or some kind of business model. So these are the things that we're looking at. And same for consumer crypto, right? Consumer crypto also need to think of, how do I bring in value from the user and not extract value from the user? So I think these are the two things that we're looking at.
Oh, I love that last part. And I really hope, again, some projects out there in the audience took note on that ending part. Chloe, I've known you almost since like I started this DePIN stuff. So I know you're always busy with projects, from Asia to America contacting you. And I know you have a good BS detector. So what passes the sniff test for Chloe and you go, okay, this could work on U2U?
So can you repeat the last part?
Oh yeah, like what do you look for whether it's a project or an idea that's getting pitched to you in the intro call, what makes you go, okay, I want this on U2U?
Okay, so for me, to be honest, we are layer one, but we don't have a massive amount like other foundations. You can see like Solana, NIA, and other foundations, they have hundreds of million or billion US dollar. We don't have that money with U2U. And for U2U, I refer to build it more in the sustainable way. And I don't think the way we are burning the money in Web3 is sustainable at all. And so what make a decision for me to onboard a project or put some grant into a project? That's first of all, they need to have a team that have experience and know exactly what they are doing and understand the product and the market, whether the product that is like product market fit or not. And the second one is they want to build a sustainable business as well, not look for short-term money. I don't like that at all. And the third one is for sure, they need to have a good strategy to go into the market. And I'm a sales background. The first job after I graduate is in B2B software company and got trained very carefully into how to do sale. And sale is the most important of a business. So for me, if the CEO of the company don't know how to do sale, I'm not gonna invest into that money, not gonna give them grants, right? So if the CEO cannot sell, how can the sales team can do? And if you don't sell, how can you have revenue? How can you sustainable your business? You cannot just go and ask VC to put in money for you, right? So that is the three critical thing we're gonna look into a project when we onboard U2U Network. They can sustain a business, which means we can sustain our network. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Chloe. We have about a minute left, so I like to always end these panels with a quick call to action. Want to let them know how they can find you on Huddle One, and we'll wrap it up like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think communication is something which we all do all the time, everywhere where we are. So my request would be that if you essentially have been doing calls on Zoom, Google Meet, and Teams, would be great if you can spin out and spun up our Meet platform. You'll get to understand it's huddle01.com. You can go and download the app, and what you can do is that you can see how faster, how it has a 1080p audio and video quality, and runs on our own network, and how important it is to build a bottom-up network for making sure that our communication can become super immersive over time. So both on the app side and the network side, if you can try it out yourself, that would give a pretty good taste on what we've been building for the last 4 years into this space. Yeah.
I want to give a shout out to Fluence, actually. So you guys should go and check out the testnet, play with it, try to break it, have fun on it. I think that's the best, case study for us for DePIN. So I would encourage everyone to go and see how 100 millisecond block times look like in production, how 0.002 cent transactions looks like, and come talk to us if you like that experience.
Yeah, so quick call to action. I think kind of reverting to some of the earlier points I made. If you are a DePIN that has a lot of data, that has a token and wants to effectively accrue more value from that data back to your token, let me know. Yeah, I think we could help you guys out.
Oh, go ahead, Chloe.
Yeah. So I would share it we don't have much money like other foundation, but we do have money to support DePIN startup. So we already launched a $1 million grant to support DePIN build on top of our network. And beside the money, we will also dedicate our experience, our team, for example, BD team, marketing team, to help you expand your network, or partnership of VC, guide you into how to do marketing as well. So come to us if you want to build a sustainable DePIN project. So after the panel, I'm gonna hit to one-on-one meeting with a partner. but my team will be here. Ari, she's sitting right there. You want to get in touch with U2U Network. Thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah, and real quick, thank you, Fluence. Thank you, Tom. Second one was even more amazing than the first. And thank you, Nadia, for setting this all up. I hope you guys learned something, took some notes, and DePIN, let's grow.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.